It's time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for another Star Trek novel. Your buddies Butch and Rob and Rob and Butch and Rob here tonight to talk. This is our 17th pocket novel. Is it a Trek in your pocket? And we're going to be talking about Ishmael tonight. Whoa, Nelly. More Moby Dick references. And to talk about it with me, as always, is my co-host, Lord Rob McCullough. What's going on, Lord Rob?
It's time. It's time. It's Grayson time. Yeah, I know you don't know who Vader is, Butch, but that's a Vader joke. But also, spoiler, I'm referencing someone who was born in the same town I was, of course, Spock's mom. How about that, Butch?
Oh, yeah. How crazy is that, huh?
Wow.
You're spoiling the end of the novel. Literally the last paragraph of the novel. There's some developments that have some bearing on Spock's family here in this novel.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting. Yeah, Ishmael was Star Trek Pocket Books number 23, published in May of 1985. This is right when we're buying these things, right?
You and I bought this one.
If I had to guess, Butch is going into the Walden books and going, what's the cover going to look like this time? And it's like, oh, it's Spock in a business suit. Grand.
Yeah, that's not the most. But I do remember getting this book at the time it came out.
Yeah, I do too.
And after we were about a chapter 2 in, I'm like, oh, I remember this one. I didn't remember what was going to happen, but yeah, there's some things about it that set it apart from most Star Trek novels, and they were apparent right away. And I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was prepared not to like it. When it started to go a little Gunsmoke / Bonanza on us, I was like, oh, this is gonna be bad. But I like what they did with it. I think they turned out pretty well. This is written by Barbara Hambly. She is 72 years old and still with us, by the way.
Road trip.
Yeah, she wrote 3 Star Trek novels. This is the first. Also wrote number 53, Ghostwalker. That's right outside of the range where we're doing. We're going 1 to 50. And then she also wrote.
I remember that one too.
Then she also wrote number 71, Crossroad. So that's fun.
I don't know if I've read that one.
Okay, have you read any Beauty and the Beast novels? Because she's written some of those also.
You stumbled across my secret fandom, Butch.
That's exactly right. So Star Wars and Beauty and the Beast novels are her other specialties. That's right. So I thought, sometimes when we read novels, we find nuggets of stories that they turned into other Star Trek episodes and other series. This is very full of those, I think. So we can talk about this. The mission that they're on is they have to get to the bottom of some sort of obscure Klingon plot that it might involve a white dwarf star roguing through the galaxy, and it might also involve time travel. And it might also involve Earth's past, and then I was like, is it a Klingon plot or is it a Carsid plot? Who are the Carsids? And I put, who are the bleep blank are the Carsids? And I believe what I learned is that they were invented for this book, that we didn't ever hear of them before and we never hear of them again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Carsids.
Yeah. But that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is another attempt. We saw an attempt in a recent book for them to explain why some Klingons have bumpy heads and other Klingons don't. Maybe that's an explanation, is like the Klingons are the swarthy ones we saw in the original series, and the Carsids are the ones with the bumpy heads. I don't know what they're trying to do. It just may be something that they're throwing out there. It's fine. But that's
as long as they don't give Spock a sister, I don't know about it. I don't really care what they do.
Yeah. So, I will say that this started out very Western-like. I didn't have high hopes, but like I said, I was surprised. There's a lot of film references in here, a lot of fun references, rather. There's a reference to Harlan Ellison in here, I believe, did you see that?
I don't.
By the way, the thing that I was most surprised at is they have it set in Seattle, and it rains. When the hell does it ever rain in Seattle, Rob?
I mean, do your research, author. Come on, that's a very Hambly-handed way of handling this story.
Yes. That is hilarious, by the way, Hambly-handed. I like that. I dig that. Okay, so let's get down to the brass tacks. So I thought that there were clear parallels to 3 TNG episodes that I was thinking of. Okay, so maybe you're familiar with some of these. There's one episode called Thine Own Self. It's from season 7, where Data is on a mission to some planet to pick up some radioactive metal and put it in a box. and he gets damaged and loses his memory and ends up in kind of a town that's kind of the technology where they have blacksmiths and and believe in magic and stuff like that. And so he ends up running around doing that. Can't remember who he is. Then, of course, there's Time's Arrow Parts 1 and 2, which is the season finale of 5 and the season premiere of 6. And in that one,
that was in San Francisco.
They time travel to San Francisco. That's right, exactly.
Find his head or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The head that was left there, like in the 1800s, by the way. Not to put too fine a point on it. I think it was the 1890s, though. So it's close, but no cigar. And then there was another episode. Do you remember this episode, The Royale, where they go to some planet and there's some alternate reality where somebody has created a book that one of these dead astronauts had. And the dead astronaut book was about a plot in a casino where they had to make a lot of money so that they could buy out the owners of the casino, which means Data ends up, playing games because of his mechanically logical mind. He can, calculate numbers, and he actually fixes some dice and wins at the crap table and stuff. All of this is like wrapped up into this book, or rather, all of those things in this book were spun off into different episodes. I can't imagine they didn't know about this book, those people that wrote that.
No, I mean, it was probably, at the time, these books were coming out and being on the bestseller list. So it's not like they're flying under the radar, these obscure little books. They would have displays in the B. Daltons and Walden books.
Yeah, kids, ask your grandparents what Walden books is, but they used to be a thing. Every mall had one, and we would, my trip to the mall was, the poster store, Foot Locker, Walden books, and the food court and the arcade. That was what my trips to the mall were like back in the day.
Yep, Sbarro's for sure.
Sbarro's and Orange Julius and Pinball and Punch Out, and then bookstore. That's right. And that was living the good life back then.
It wasn't too shabby.
Yeah. So, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about the revelation we're going to have about Spock's ancestry?
Well, it was just kind of cool. It starts off in space, blah, blah, blah. I don't know exactly how you've outlined this, this podcast, but, and I don't take notes, but, at some point when they go in the past, it's like, oh, we're in Seattle.
Yes.
And that's fun because they're referencing stuff I know about, Puget Sound and, the Cascade Mountains and whatever else. And It's like, oh yeah. And I'm picturing day after day of dreary rain. Not too hard for me to conjure up in my mind. And then, at some point, it's revealed that, in fact, the great grandmother or something or whatever, I think it's some relative of Spock's mom goes there, and then it turns out that records show that Spock's mom was born in Seattle, and I'm like, oh, that's where I was born. That's pretty cool because we don't get a lot of Spock's backstory all the time. I think Star Trek always did a good job of giving us little bits and pieces, but they didn't come out. We knew she was human. We knew she was a teacher. We knew Spock's dad was from Vulcan. He's an ambassador. We knew, we'd pick up, little bits and pieces here and there, but we didn't really learn much about Amanda, Spock's mom,
right?
Other than she was a teacher. She's from Earth. She seems nice, and she married a Vulcan. So to find out that she's from Seattle, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that some of the characters we meet are her ancestors, and that's pretty cool too, I think. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you that was a cool thing to have a little Pacific Northwest in there. Hey, we know what that is. It's only a few days to Portland. It's a 10-day trip to San Francisco, and they make that trip twice because they're here for a while. And you're like, how does any of this stuff happen? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I was like, what are the odds that there's time travel involved? They not only travel in the past, but then they travel to Earth. But then eventually the story does make sense where they explain all that, right? It's a Klingon plot to change Earth's history for some nefarious reasons, right? So we don't really.
and Star Trek's never going to get tired of using that.
No.
That is always fertile ground. The Borg might come back. Klingons might come back. The Romulans, devious Romulan might come back to try and, if we go back and we kill this person or stop this from happening, then, the bad guys will win.
Yeah, and that's and we that is, and I'm not gonna lie, I eat up all the time travel stories, so it's always very fun. In fact, we had a Romulan plot to change the past and conquer the Federation too, right? So in one of the books that we already read, if I'm trying to remember which one it was, Killing Time. That's right. Killing Time was one of the novels that we read, was a Romulan plot to change the past to destroy the Federation. Now we're getting a Klingon plot through.
Yeah, was that the one that had cranky, Lieutenant Kirk who was getting into fights and getting expelled? Okay.
Had a little bit of a drug problem and all that stuff. Yeah, it turns out if somebody in his past had turned left instead of right, everything would have changed. The butterfly effect, right?
Well, do you know what I watched today?
What did you watch today?
I watched Yesteryear from the animated series.
Ooh, that's exciting. Yes, another time travel one where we meet Amanda and Sarek, Spock's parents, if I'm not mistaken.
And we find out that, somehow through you're never going to wrap your brain around it, intricacies of time travel, original Spock, OG Spock, was helped by, his mysterious uncle at this important time in his childhood, and it was him.
It's
from the future. How does that work?
James Cameron was paying attention for sure when that happened. I'll tell you that, because it makes about as much sense as Terminator logic, and that's fine with me. I eat it up. I always look another way when it's like this time travel doesn't really make sense, but you know what? It's fine because I dig it. So we have a lot of guest characters that we have to deal with. Maybe the most interesting looking one is Aurelia Steiner. She is a Drelb. Drelb is kind of like a blobby kind of a person with pseudopods and changes colors and communicates with smells and scents and So I could tell that because she got a purple look on her pseudopod and suddenly I smelled coffee beans, and so I knew that she was thinking about that.
I thought that was a really fun character.
Oh yeah,
I enjoy she blushes and smells like cinnamon or something.
Yeah.
It was cool, and it's something you could probably do now with bullshit CGI. That might be doable in a movie.
That TV series, the Orville, that's kind of a Star Trek parody a little bit. They have a blob-like character on there who's always green, but it's like they totally could do something like that. They play around with that. The pseudopods and can make yourself into whatever you want to. We also meet, we're going to spend some time at Starbase 12, so we meet Base Commander Maria Kellogg, who likes to call Kirk Jamie for some reason. And she's I think she has some fun moments and stuff like that. And so we're going to spend a lot of time with her. Those are our main guest stars, of course, for the space side.
Well, I think the space station itself was kind of a cool guest star, right?
Yes.
Because it was like, I don't remember what what was it, a moon or something?
Yeah, Starbase 12 is an asteroid or a moon or something, yes.
That they had, and so you get the impression that, like on Strange New Worlds, everything's sparkly new and looks great and looks like you're staying at a 5-star hotel all the time. This, sounded more like it's like a carved out bunker kind of thing. Sort of made it work, which is kind of fun. It's kind of plays into, you and I like that submarine style stuff from On Dot Fruit, if I may. And I was kind of getting that vibe, picturing this place. So that was pretty neat. Yeah.
Yep, and and then we go out to the Old West, and we get all sorts of characters. The main person we meet is Aaron Stemple. He's the one who finds Spock. Aaron Stemple will eventually become an important person, work at the Library of Congress and all that stuff. But at this time, he's just some guy making his way out on the West Coast, kind of a thing.
And is he a real person? Is he an actual historical figure?
I do not believe so. No,
okay.
Neither are the Bolt brothers, Joshua, Jason, and Jeremy. I assume we'll just have the Baldwins play them in the movie version of this. That's fine, right? Okay. And then Trey of Vulcanus, by the way, Vulcanus, they inexplicably switch back to Vulcanus here. They're saying they're Vulcans, but they're saying they're from Vulcanus. Or are they saying that there's more than one planet that Vulcans come from, and maybe there's Vulcan, and then there's also Vulcanus. Did you get anything like that?
I was thinking maybe Vulcanus was a city on Vulcan.
Oh, now you're into something, because then that makes sense. So he's Trey of the city Vulcanus on the planet Vulcan. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
But if. Because it seems a little late. I could see a 70s novel doing that and saying Vulcanus is Vulcan.
Right, but
or I could see James Blish doing that.
Yes.
From a script.
I think some of the Bantam novels did do that, actually, yeah.
Yeah, but by 1985 we've had 3 movies already. So I don't think the author would make that air. So I told myself in my head, I bet it's a city on Vulcan.
Yeah, and that's a better explanation than mine, which is, maybe there's another planet or whatever. So I like that.
I think there's like a red Earth, town in the U.S., and we live on Earth. I mean, you know what I mean? Yes. Like, I don't think it would be unheard of.
There you go. All right. So, meanwhile, I'm going to say you're going to splurge on the budget for this movie, and it's 85, and you're going to make this movie. You're going to cast Henry Fonda to play Trey of Vulcan. Oh, hell. That's what I think. And then you have a bunch of people like your Captain Clancy's and your Biddy Clumes and all these girls that are the wiving out. That, by the way, if you're not getting Mud's women vibes from this a little bit, it's like they're actually me cargo is what they are. The women are. They're very much going back to that idea of you're bringing wives out to the hardworking men on the frontier. Sometimes it's miners of dilithium crystals, and sometimes it's guys who are cutting trees, but they need wives. So what are you going to do?
What are you going to do with all that wood?
All right. And did you catch that we're back to names that have apostrophes in them? Did you see that? The Klingon guy. There's some Klingon colonel named NEH apostrophe RTH. I was glad to have again. It's been a while since we've read. So many of the first novels we read in this series had unpronounceable names in them, and it's been a while since we've had an unpronounceable name. And it's nice to get back in the unpronounceable name business.
They can't help themselves. Authors cannot help themselves.
I know it's like some sort of a silent agreement between authors that they're going to have this. But okay, so the other thing I thought was fun about this is you mentioned that we find out that Spock's ancestry is Seattle. We also find out in this that Sulu's ancestry is South Asia, which nope, we learn because Star Trek 4 hasn't happened yet, right? So next year Star Trek 4 is going to establish he was born in San Francisco.
Now, did it say he was born in South Asia, or maybe he just lived there?
That could be too, because it does say, well, her imagining when he's a kid that he's got some sort of transit pass from that they have in South Asia or whatever. So he could have been born in San Francisco and lived in South Asia or something like that. It could have been. But that's a good correction, I suppose. But they just hadn't established that Sulu was from San Francisco yet. At least on screen they hadn't established that, right? That gets established in Star Trek 4, which is a year and a half after this movie comes out.
Well, and and we've talked about this before, Butch, but this idea of what's canon and what isn't, and everybody agrees the shows are and the books aren't.
Yeah, sure.
And yet, so much of the fill-in stuff on the Star Trek universe and the Star Trek characters comes from the books, and it blends together. And sometimes the stuff from the novels, while the novels aren't canon, some ideas from them or names will become canon.
Absolutely.
And so, that's kind of fun. And so I was enjoying all the Amanda Grayson stuff, and I was like, I'm accepting that. And most of that stuff was not anything that was said in the show or in the movies or anything. So,
exactly.
But like Uhura's name and Sulu's first name, all that stuff's from the books, not from the show. And then they like it and they'll go with it in a movie later,
Yeah, and that's what's great about it is, that they, over time, people pick some stuff out of these novels and they put it in a show, and that's fine. And if they don't, it's always, I always enjoy seeing where and how the story in a book can fit into the things we do know about Star Trek, right?
And like when we did, was it the Romulan Way? Was that the good one?
Yes.
The one that talked about like the when Vulcan
their backstory.
had
That's right. The whole history of the break. Yeah, that was the Romulan way. That's right. So
and that was awesome. And then, but we were talking. I remember when we did that podcast that a lot of the ideas we don't know where we first heard them.
Yeah,
but they still shape what we think about. Like I think you were talking about the one time, like the Klingons wanting to die in battle and go to wherever.
Yeah.
The Black Fleet.
Yes.
We thought that was something from a show or something. No, right? But we had picked it up in the book somewhere, and we just accepted it. And that's so we don't always know where we got the ideas from or whatever, but they still inform how we're viewing the wonderful world of Star Trek.
It lends to the rich history of a show and a movie series that we like so well. And of course, the nice thing about it is if later TV series or movies say, well, actually, that's not what it is, we're okay with that, right? It's authors.
We don't have to.
They're just trying to come up with ideas and seeing what works. And sometimes it works, and sometimes they run with it, and sometimes it works and they don't run with it, and that's okay.
Yeah, and if we don't like it, we don't have to go back and revisit it.
That's right. Except we're constitutionally and contractually bound now to go back and listen and read the first 50 novels. So,
and watch And the Children Shall Lead and The Market Kid.
That's right. Okay, so I will say this: it's important. It's the big feature of this story is Spock's in the past and has amnesia. So those are the two kind of story plot points that this whole story is going to wrap around, and that he's alone because none of his friends are with him, and so they have to figure out a way to tell a story where all of this stuff happens. And I think that they, by and large, do that. Right? The idea is Spock's going to get sent on an espionage mission to this mysterious Klingon freighter that's attached somehow to this mysterious Klingon battlecruiser, and it's going to go somewhere, and they don't know what it is, and they're both leaving, so they suspect. So he sneaks his way on board the transport, the freighter or whatever, the Klingon freighter, and something happens. When the book opens, Spock's already lost, presumed, missing, presumed dead kind of a thing. They don't know what happened. He just... Kirk's hoping that he died a quick death and not a torturous one and that kind of thing.
Yeah, he's presumed tortured. That was kind of crazy. I was like, geez, damn.
But of course we've heard of the mind sifter, or is it the mind feeder? I don't know. Mind ripper. That's right. A mind ripper, a mind sifter. Yeah, and we've heard of that before. And so the idea is at some point he's captured, but he's tortured by this thing, but he manages to effect an escape and beam off a thing and go down to somewhere and get down to Earth and whatever. That's where it starts. And our job and the writer's job is to create the mystery around that. What was going on that this all happened? And if you can land that, you're going to have a good book, right? If it all makes sense at the end, you're going to have a good book. And so we'll see how they do. I think we've already spoiled it. I think we've already kind of given away that we at least buy what they're selling, right?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this book a lot. Spoiler, and it's we saw in The City on the Edge of Forever, which I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that episode. It's a little hidden gem on the par of Emotional or Undercover of the Night by the Rolling Stones. Have you ever heard of them, Butch?
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yes.
Yeah. Where one of the cool things about accidentally, in that story, McCoy went back in time, but he was kind of like this. He wasn't himself. He was out of his mind. He had amnesia a little bit.
Yep.
He was on drugs. And so I do think it's fun to sometimes have a time travel story where our heroes are back in time for whatever reason. But if it's unintended and there's some sort of, they're not operating on full thrusters, as the saying goes, that just ratchets up the drama.
Yeah, and it manages to they do play with that very idea here, right? Except it's Spock this time, and so it's terrific. And so why don't we just jump in and find out what's going on? How about that?
Let's jump.
All right,
let's cannonball, baby.
Yeah, chapter 1 opens with Kirk in his quarters, trying and failing to sleep because he can't sleep because our buddy, he's hoping Spock is dead. And I put exclamation points, hoping Spock's dead. There's something involving the Klingons, and he's concerned that it's better dead than whatever torture that they might have planned for him. So no, it's the middle of the night, but Bones shows up at his quarters anyway because Bones like, I know you're not asleep because you're probably stewing about Spock. and he tries to offer some help. And there's some mentions of a night at the Wonder Bar. We don't know what the Wonder Bar is. I think we're led to believe it's at Starbase 12, where they're kind of at. And
yeah, you got people staggering down the hallways and stuff. By the way, Butch, I meant to ask you, did you remember this book?
I did not remember. As soon as we drew the name from random choice, I knew that the cover had Spock in a business suit, but I didn't remember it was a business suit from the late 1800s. Is what I didn't remember. So I didn't remember anything about it being time travel, but I did remember that. So I would say that means no, I didn't really remember this book all that much. So
okay,
yeah.
Right.
So listen, the other thing we get is some fun references. There's a reference in chapter 1 to a scruffy-looking spice smuggler. I'm like, that's Han Solo, right? That's Han Solo. We all know that's Han Solo.
Yeah.
And they mentioned being shanghaied at some point. Shanghaied is going to come back several times because in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle and Portland both known for people getting shanghaied, which means kidnapped, put on a boat, and now you're crew of that boat, right? And so
you don't have any union rights.
Yeah,
and you're not working 410s.
That's right, exactly. No 410s for you. Yeah, so they're at this base because there's suspicion of a Klingon plot and a battle cruiser Rapash and the transport and Starbase 12. There's enough to send Spock incognito to infiltrate the freighter, and apparently it went wrong.
What did you think of? I thought that was a little. I was like, would you really send? You know what I mean? Like, they might have a secret.
Yeah.
So no indication of what the secret might be, or if it's dangerous or anything. But we are going to risk the first officer and possibly interstellar war to do this spy mission. I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm buying that, but okay. You know.
That's fair. In fairness, he volunteers for it. So, and then so there's some transmissions that he does manage to get. I think they're called squirts, but they don't call them that in this book. But we've seen it called squirts in other books. And it's very short messages. And the message they get from Spock is like White Dwarf, Klaru, Tillerman's Factor, and Guardian. And that's it. And then the transport accelerates fast and vanishes. And Spock's on board that thing when it happens. And then the battle cruiser goes back home and just leaves the Enterprise there to go, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. We got caught with our britches down.
That's right. You keep quoting regulations, Lieutenant. It's fine. So now chapter 2, I just wrote Gunsmoke, Bonanza, and the Rifleman. Meet Aaron Stemple of Seattle, Washington, 1867. And Stemple's kind of riding around on a horse, making his way. And who does he come across but a wounded man? And I said, make that alien. And I said, nope, make that Vulcan. And so he does what a good-natured man would do, a good Samaritan purpose, and takes him in for his own protection because he figures, well, people around this place don't cotton much to like strangers, let alone aliens, let alone space aliens. So he takes him in for his own protection. Have you
ever heard, Butch? Have you ever? I think I told you in 2019 when Natalie and I drove across the country, we stopped in Roswell.
Oh yeah, I think you did some of that.
And that was fun because we went to the UFO museum and there's fun little videos and you can watch and books you can read or buy.
Yes.
About various alien encounters, whatever, so-called or whatever. And it's fun. And I enjoy that stuff. Do I buy it all entirely? No. Do I discount it all entirely?
Yeah.
No.
Rob, regardless of what you may have heard,
yes,
there is no Area 51.
Thank you. And
actually,
yeah. And so I came back from that trip and I brought like a coffee table book and stuff. Anyway, I got Darlene all fired up about UFOs. Woo. So for a while we would watch UFO shows or whatever. And there was a famous story, I guess, in, whatever that genre of, I don't know if that genre is a UFO genre, a conspiracy theory genre.
A little bit of both, yeah.
Or just, goofy fun genre. But there was like some place, I don't know, Texas or somewhere, where supposedly in the 1800s, late 1800s, a UFO crashed and the alien had lived among the townspeople in this little town with like 10 people, and until he died, and there was like a grave for him and everything. That was kind of fun. And that is sort of because my first take when I hear that this guy's riding along and he finds an alien dripping green blood is that would be such a shock. But if you don't really have the same frame of reference we had, like I would be alarmed if I saw an alien today, right? If I was walking along and I found an obvious extraterrestrial.
That would be fairly alarming, yeah. And we grew up on science fiction and having some concept of it.
But if it's 100 years before us, you might not have that. You haven't read War of the Worlds yet, and you haven't, it wouldn't even be something you had ever considered, and so maybe you would go, that's weird, but I guess I'll help this guy out.
Yeah,
so I thought that was kind of fun.
It was fun, and I was reading this going, okay, so is this an anachronism? Did people in the 1860s, that's before Jules Verne's writing, that's 3 decades before H.G. Wells' writing, so did people think about aliens living on other planets? And the answer apparently is yes. The first real references to stuff like that were apparently early in the 1800s. So it was something that some people, especially book-learned people, might have read about, people theorizing about, they would probably think, they're from Venus or Mars or Jupiter or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But at least people were thinking about that. So it's not outlandish for him to think that. At first I was like, well, surely that's too early for somebody to be thinking aliens from another world, but apparently not. So real life has corrected me on that and said, yeah, it could be. So I'm now buying into this, and of course he's bringing them home, and then we meet all sorts of other characters. This woman, Lottie Hatfield, is wondering where Aaron's at. She checks up on Aaron and finds that he's got an alien there. She's freaked out when she sees the green blood. He's unconscious, but he says, yeah, he hasn't spoken, but he's really strong. He hurt my wrist when he grabbed my wrist when he was kind of coming in and out of conscience, whatever. And then from there we hop over to the saloon where we meet a bunch of other characters, including and we learn about this bet that's going on. This group, the Bolt brothers, brought a bunch of women in from the East Coast around the Horn. Apparently there's no Panama Canal yet. So instead of bringing them overland, they took them on a ship around the tip of South America and back up the Pacific coast and delivered them. That's not a cheap voyage, by the way.
That's
the Horn. When they say taking them around the Horn, that's what they mean.
No, I know that, but I mean, I know they're going around Cape Horn there, but that is, you're traversing like the length of the Earth on this trip.
Yeah.
Is that really easier than crossing I know crossing the country is no walk in the park there, but
no, there's no intercontinental railroad yet. So I suppose it's, in theory, I read a book a long time ago about a whale ship that left Nantucket and ended up going to Valparaiso, Chile, and then sailing out in the Pacific Ocean. So that trip is like and that was 1820. So that's a trip that, by 1867 they could totally do, and probably a cheaper thing, especially if you're transporting lots of people and you want to do it relatively fast and safely. It's probably, I hesitate to say it's safer, but by 1867 I bet it's pretty safe. So anyway,
I don't know how fast it would be either. That's a long way to go at 10 miles an hour or whatever.
That's a long ways to go at 10 miles an hour. How true that is. And if they're making 10 miles an hour, they're probably not always doing that even, right? You got to stop a few times. So we do hear one thing, though. We hear briefly, I almost missed it the first time, about some strangers that were passing through looking for someone. And he wondered maybe if they're looking for this guy I found. And, of course, we are going to be led to believe later that that's the Klingons that were looking for him, right? We don't know that yet. So...
they're assholes.
They do, yeah, that's right. They do a good job of like slowly giving us the details. I think that's what this book does well, is it just doesn't like play. It's making you work for it and making you wait for it, right? Something's going to happen, but you don't know what it is, and then eventually they give it to you. So that's good. So when chapter 3, I start with chapter 3. Suffice to say, it's raining. So, yeah, and then we learn about this bet that Stemple had with Jason Bolt for the rights to own this mountain, Bridal Veil Mountain, right? It's this big piece of property, and they have a bet over this. And if you don't wed all of these girls that they brought, because Stemple put the money forward for it, then he's going to get this mountain, and that's going to be his ticket to the big time, right? So that's
This seemed like a dumb thing, but I'd be like, oh, it doesn't look like I'm going to win that bet. I guess I'll offer the 5 remaining chicks $100 a piece to go ahead and get married. I mean, it seems like you could finagle it a little bit, or
there's got to be a way to win this bet, is what I'm saying. But it doesn't matter because we have to take a stop because the alien is now awake, and he's pretty shocked when the alien speaks English. He can't get his mind around it. It's like, why would he be able to speak English? He's from another planet. A lot of people from this planet don't speak English. Why can he speak English? But it turns out the alien doesn't know either, and he doesn't know who he is, but he has memory of some things we learn, but he doesn't know anything about his own past or who he is or where he came from or how he came to be here. And so that always is good for a storytelling. Let's just say characters with amnesia is a tried and true story element, isn't it?
Yes. You and I have always been big fans of bonk bonk on the head. And,
yep.
It's like even, got kicked in the head by a mule. I just got crossed, fell down a well. There's always, you get the coconut lands on your head once, you got amnesia, you get bonked on the head again, you're back. I mean, it applies to everything. It's great. And the cool thing about it is you don't know if the amnesia is permanent, temporary, what they're going to remember, what they aren't going to remember.
Whether Chapel's going to have to teach you how to speak again. Yeah.
Yeah, whether you're going to show up speaking Swahili because you forgot everything. I mean,
all of the above.
So
you go back to the language you were born with. Wait, what? No, never mind. It's fine.
Well, you laugh, Butch, but I think you could call Spock a Seattleite of love, if you know what I mean, because he's happy. Thank you.
Seattleite of love. That's
Spock
delightful.
Yeah.
Oh, did you practice that before this? That's awesome. That's too funny for late night, sir. All right, so here's the thing that's a little surprising. This alien is a little bit, he becomes a little bit suicidal or fatalistic. It's like, well, what's the point? I don't know anybody. There's no chance of me getting back to my people, so why would I even bother? And but
that was disquieting. I didn't like my favorite Star Trek character in all of Star Trek, and probably all of anything ever,
yes.
frankly, to be feeling this way. Even though I know he's not going to stay this way. It was troubling to me that Spock was so down in the dumps over this that he just was like, he had no hope, because that's not the Spock we know. Am I right?
No, you're right, but that's okay because Stemple's a glass is half full kind of guy, so he's there to help him. And then when they go outside, he's like, oh yeah, I recognize the stars and stuff like that. And so he's like, oh, I do have some knowledge, so maybe there is hope if I have some knowledge of something. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to leave that off for a while because we got to go back to the Enterprise and Starbase 12. And the Enterprise is trying to suss out the clues that Spock had sent to them. They quickly pick up on the idea that when the word guardian might be the guardian of forever, which is as you mentioned from the City on the Edge of, guardian of forever parentheses City on the Edge of. That's right. So
well, they were really bending over backwards to not come up with the obvious answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
they're
exactly
like, you mean the adoptive parents? No, that's not the guardian.
The renamed Cleveland baseball team for the 2020s. Yeah, yes, that one could be right before they moved to Tokyo and became the Tokyo Giants. That one,
that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we get this whole explanation for
you blabbed, Quaid. You blabbed about Mars.
We get the explanation of all the. For all those out there who aren't familiar with this stuff, we're going to get the explanation for retroactive alteration of history, and then we also find out a fun detail, which is only Kirk and Spock and McCoy truly know what happened on the Guardian planet. They didn't put any of that in an official report. Didn't even tell some of it to their fellow crew. It's just only the three of them know for sure all the details, which I think is fun.
I thought that was fun. I like that. Because. That's not what we assume usually happens on a mission, but yeah. And yet they didn't say, let's not tell anybody we were ever here. They just obviously kept some stuff out because isn't there like teams studying the
Well,
the
that's
guard
the thing is we've
stuff?
seen that in other books and stories, but I don't know if any of it's canonical. I mean, there might have been something in the. Actually, I think there might have been an animated series episode where they're at the Guardian studying it.
Oh, it was the one. It was the one I watched today.
Oh yeah, yesteryear, of course. That did come into play now that you mentioned it, I suppose. So so to the extent that the animated series is canon, then yes, they definitely did go back and study it and stuff like that. But maybe they still haven't said everything about what they know, and I'm assuming they should say, look, be careful you don't step on a cockroach or sit on a fish.
They might have done it after this book, right? Because
that's a good point. Yeah. So then we find out a little bit about they suspect that maybe the Klingons who have an imperial representative on the base are an imp rep. I was like, what the fuck is an imp rep? It's fine.
Well, that reminds me of something, Butch. But like, so Starfleet doesn't even know about the Guardian of Forever, really, but the Klingons somehow found out.
Well,
like, that's like Genesis. I mean, Genesis is this big secret, top secret, but within 20 minutes, rogue Klingons are coming for it.
That's right.
We got leaks.
Word gets around, apparently. That's right, in this old Texas town. So then they also, the other thing that was mentioned is Klaru, and they're like, well, Klaru is an area, a region on their planet, and I like how they used the whole planet of the Klingons is Klinzai, which is exactly what they used in that other Klingon one that we read, right? Which was, which one was that? Which one was the one the Final Reflection? That's right. So that's what they called Klingon there is Klinzai, right? So they're calling it Klinzai again. But it's also a person, a scientist, and say, well, maybe the scientist is what's involved. So it's just they're basically giving us clues at that point at all. But we do meet an important guy, and that's Trey of Vulcanus. And he's a historian and a fellow familiar. He's familiar with that Klaru guy. He trusts him. He thinks he wouldn't betray him. And by the way, the fun thing about him is, in true Vulcan fashion, he's like, I don't want to take sides on this, right? The Klingons haven't done nothing to me, and so why would I take your side against them on this, right? Exactly. So, famous last words. So, and then we learned a little about how the Klingons had been economically conquered by this group 600 years ago, and it completely reshaped our society, which I think is an interesting explanation, because I had heard somebody say, if the Klingons are such a warlike, and brutal race, how did they ever make all these scientific advances? And I was thought, well, I'm sure you can come up with a reason, but the reason these guys come up with is that they were conquered by an advanced race who gave them all this technology, and then eventually the Klingons threw them out, kind of a thing. So that's an explanation, as Joel Perry would say. It's an explanation. Yeah. So now we're back into 1867, and the girls are down in Seattle, and there's laundry all over a saloon. There's girls a marrying everywhere and all at all times. And Aaron Stemple comes in with his brand new to town nephew, Ishmael Marks. Meeting Ish Marks, everybody. And it turns out Spock is just wearing his hair a little long these days, so it covers the ears and kind of the eyebrows, so he looks passably normal, maybe a little pale, a little green around the gills, maybe. But he immediately starts not keeping his opinions to himself, because Ishmael does not approve bringing in wives for loggers. It's like, well, that's not really giving them their essential, essential agency as individuals, making them come here and just assuming they want to be wives and blah blah blah. Ishmael's a little bit on the edge of woke, is what I'm saying, Raj.
He's a little bit, maybe a little bit, and probably not making a ton of friends, but he has other really good qualities, and so it sounds like he fits in pretty well. He's well respected and liked. Yeah,
that's the thing, is he does fit in pretty well. Even though he's kind of just getting to know the culture, it feels like he can kind of fit in around people that aren't like him, like he has practice doing it and he doesn't know it, kind of a thing.
It almost feels like he fits in better than he does on the Enterprise.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they do kind of talk about it a little bit. So then in the next chapter, we're going to meet the Bolts, Jason, Joshua, and Jeremy, and they're talking about Ishmael. I put a brief math interlude. They go a little bit hardcore into like talking about 19th century math, which I thought shouldn't have been as interesting. It was, but I kind of bought what they were selling. So that's how you know they're doing well, is when they're doing a brief math interlude and I'm buying into it.
Well, you know what was obvious to me, Butch, all kidding aside in this book, is that the author was smart. They did some research. She, I guess, a she, right?
Yep, Barbara.
She did her research. She's throwing out interesting ideas, but she's not just throwing crap at the typewriter and seeing what sticks.
That's right.
She's giving good stuff. I thought my impression of the author was this is a smart person, and and I'm with you. I like the way the story's told, just like an onion, layer by layer. You get a little more, a little more, a little more, because it's well into the book before we're still like, why is this happening? I mean, so there was some mystery and and we're seeing, probably the right balance of new characters and tried and true favorite characters, and seeing we got the fish out of water thing we usually have.
Of course, always good.
So I thought this book really blended a lot of stuff successfully, which is not easy to do.
That's exactly right, and it's a deft hand that can do that. That can be somebody who writes other novels, but can come to this universe and make it work. Make it work the way the universe is supposed to work, and yet still tell a good story. So that's impressive. So some stuff that happens here, we learn that it's kind of important for Ishmael / Spock to not give away secrets like he has superior hearing, but the superior hearing saves one of the Bolt brothers and one of the ladies who have fallen down a well during a rainstorm when they were expected back, and people come looking for them. They send out a search party. Biddy, one of the ladies, none of the men want her to come because you're and I'm that kind of thing. But she comes anyway, and Spock takes her aside. There's no reason she can't come. She knows the woods better than me. You're letting me come, right? So, he beat him down by logic. But they rescue the missing people, and that's fine. And then that's when Ishmael tells Aaron that he's for some reason familiar with Seattle, but he doesn't know why, which is fun. So now.
He loves losing baseball. Yeah.
I think they won their last game. No, they didn't. They lost it in the bottom of the eighth. That's right. Spoiler. We're slipping into Mariner talking. Yeah, the Mariners lost a heartbreaker the other night.
Yeah, if you want to ever feel like all hope is lost, you might as well go kill yourself. Don't wait to get transported to the past. Get transported to the present.
She's transported to T-Mobile Park. That's right. Exactly. So we're back at Starbase 12, and Base Commander Kellogg and Jamie go to talk physics with that Drelb, that Aurelia Steiner Drelb. She's a weird alien. They also make some references to some other species, or the Orions and the Kzinti. Those are both, heavily used in the animated series. The Kzinti were invented in the animated series. They're cat people, basically, is what it is. So that's fun.
Butch, what was that? What was the story on the record? It was like,
there's a cat woman, and a cat comes aboard, and all of a sudden they're all speaking in cat a little bit. It's like, that was crazy. That's right. That, ironically, Lieutenant Morass, who solves that problem, not a Kzinti. That's the irony of it all. So here's the thing. They want to know if the Klingons could use time travel using that white dwarf star, kind of how we end up seeing it in Star Trek 4, where they slingshot around a gravitational body, right? That they're kind of playing around with, which we saw in the original series episode when they go back and have to rescue an Air Force pilot and stuff like that. Captain John Christopher and stuff. So we the viewer remember, and we were like, why don't you guys remember how to do this? But they don't. Yeah.
Tomorrow or something. What was that episode called?
Tomorrow is yesterday, is what it was, right? Return to Tomorrow is Sargon. Yes, exactly. And and all our yesterdays and some of our tomorrows are different episodes. Yeah, exactly. So what would they hopefully want to accomplish in doing this time travel, and how does Spock fit into this? So we'll find out, because we're going back in Chapter 8 to San Francisco. Spock is in San Francisco. He's like, boy, this sure looks familiar. but he's imagining a future version of it, right? But the landscape seems familiar to him, even though it's completely different. And then it's in San Francisco that we meet a character that I'm not sure how necessary it was to have her in this book, but we have her, Dr. Sarah Gray. She is a medical doctor, a woman medical doctor in San Francisco, which is kind of tough to find patients when you're a woman medical doctor in the 19th century. But there's some fun hijinks that happen, and a little bit of and a post-gambling robbery that happens, which so we can tell San Francisco's a rough town on the frontier. Apparently much rougher than Seattle is, I guess.
Yeah, and but we are getting, a good message that, maybe Seattle will be this open-minded, cool place where women can be doctors and aliens are accepted without question, and
absolutely.
Good stuff.
A vision of a better future, infinite diversity, infinite combination. That's right. So,
and I appreciate the fact that the author didn't lean into some obvious bad guy stereotypes and have, that would have been, she could have done a lot of dumb stuff with,
this
guys in the log being assholes for no reason, and she didn't do that.
Yeah, there really isn't any of that stuff. We do kind of see people trying to rob you after you when you're walking around with your dollar bills hanging out of your pocket in San Francisco. Basically,
we saw that in Little House on the Prairie.
That's damn right. Yeah, exactly. So hey, but who else is living the life of crime? Dealing with ne'er-do-wells out on the frontier. Sulu and Uhura, coming back from a night of drinking on Starbase 12, and they're in the base, and they happen to come across some people that seem to be kidnapping somebody, and the people are Klingons, and the somebody is Trey of Vulcanus.
What?
I know, right? Who saw that coming? So they get in a fist fight with some Klingons, and they apparently Mbenga and Chapel them into submission. You wonder where that came from. It's right here. Playing the role of Uhura, playing the role of Chapel is Uhura, and playing the role of Mbenga is Sulu. But other than that, it's kind of the same.
Not only that, they're drunk and they still pull it off.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But you know what it is? It's a chance for Sulu and Uhura to do something, and we're going to give them credit for that, Rob. Because too often it's like they're just opening hailing frequencies, or maybe deciphering a language, and that's fine. But Uhura actually gets to kick somebody in the face a couple times in this, and gets a little beat up.
We should write some short stories based on the most obscure, forgotten crew members that were in, like D'Amato.
I would love to do like a lower decks of Star Trek the Next Generation, Star Trek the original series. Yeah, I'm imagining D'Amato and the guy who first guy who gets eaten by the salt monster and all those guys. Yeah,
the old hag who's inexplicably navigating on that same episode as D'Amato, where she's like,
Lieutenant Rada. That's right. It's like
everyone else is 26.
And it'd be fun because I would imagine every time Lieutenant Rada comes on the screen, we're still going to go, bo, 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 just because that'd be fun, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to give her a sugar pill myself.
Metaphor. Okay, that's cool. So having saved the Klingon, or saved the Vulcan from the Klingons, he's now picking sides. Okay, they tried to kill me, so I'm picking sides. I'll help you out. We'll figure this out. Me and you, Trey of Vulcanus and Kirk together. Forget about it. We're going to shut this down, baby. Yeah. So then we're back to the bet, right? Ish is asking Aaron not to force the bet for the Bridal Veil Mountain. It's morally wrong, and it ignores the agency of women. But he wants the damn mountain. So what does he do? And Spock's like, well, maybe you can suggest that Jason can buy you out of the bet, and so he'll give you the money, and then you can have this money that you would get from the mountain instead. So he decides, okay, well, Ish is a very logical and makes a good argument, and so he convinces Aaron of that, and
hey, Butch.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was there ever any explanation why he picked the name Ishmael? Because it's kind of a dumb title for a book, in my opinion.
Yeah, it jumps out at you. It's just there. I'm sure it's a reference for for Moby Dick. I don't know what it would also be a reference to. I'm a little more concerned about how they picked the name Marx. I was like, okay, is Karl Marx a thing yet in 1867? I don't think so. I think that's 1871. But yeah, I was like, that's weird. And the Marx Brothers are still 30 years away, 40 years away. So that was a weird thing. I will give you that. It's just, it rolls off the tongue, I guess. And somebody calling Spock Ish is pretty weird. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. What would you have called him?
See, this is me trying to remember the name he went by in the episode Errand of Mercy, and I can't remember now. He'd be a Vulcan trader, and his name would be, damn it, I don't remember the name.
Well, he was like Selleck in the one I saw today, or something like that.
Yeah, when he's playing his own uncle, kind of a thing. Yeah, that's.
And actually, this is kind of like the Paradise Syndrome, where Kirk was essentially in the past. He wasn't in the past, but he was living in a more primitive culture, and he had amnesia. That's
right. That was an amnesia episode too. That was like the big amnesia episode from the original series, wasn't it? I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, so another one that there's a parallel to. All right, so
Spurrock, I guess, is what we would call it.
I am Spurrock. There you go. Nailed it. Okay, we got it. Okay, so Kirk and company are learning what the Klaru is saying, and then we find out that maybe Klaru, maybe somebody else tried to destroy a bunch of records. And if you ever want to piss off a Vulcan historian, try to destroy some historical documents, because Trey of Vulcan is pissed. Yeah. He says if he wanted to, and then they're asking him, well, okay, so if they were trying to go back and do hijinks and try and destroy the Federation or Earth, how would they do it? And he's like, if they ask him, Trey of Vulcan, if you were going to go back in time and try to do one thing to like completely ruin Earth's future, what would you do? And he says, that's easy. I'd go to 1963 and I'd drop a small little nuclear weapon in Washington, D.C. during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Boom, end of planet. Your problems are solved. But of course, they didn't do that. We know that they're in 1867. So the mystery is, okay, so what the hell are they trying to do in 1867? Well, we're not going to answer that for you yet.
Well, and this is kind of it's the MacGuffin.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know how crazy I am about this MacGuffin. I'm cool with the idea of the Klingons going back and trying to do something to change history, but this seems like an odd choice.
It is. I started this book thinking, okay, this person wants to write an odor. You know what an odor is? OATER. It's like, that's a crossword puzzle clue that means like a Western TV show or movie or book or whatever. It's like, you slap the feed bag of oats on your horse, in the front of your horse, and you go to town.
I was not familiar with that word.
Yeah, it's a crossword puzzle thing. So then chapter 12 opens when Jason Bolt wants Ishmael to come to San Francisco with him because he wants to accept Stempel's offer to buy himself out of the bet, but he doesn't have the cash. But he figures, if we go to San Francisco, there's lots of places to gamble there, and you're a mathematical guy. If you tried hard, I bet you could come up with a way where we could guarantee ourselves that we would make that money playing the tables. And so 10 days later, they're in San Francisco, and their trust in the system, which Spock and Ishmael has created. I'm sorry, what do we decide to go with? Spurrock, that's right. Has come up for them. It's blackjack, and you play, and the idea is, if you play it exactly the right way, it'll take a long time, but it'll be inevitable. You're guaranteed to make it there. But of course, these guys are impulsive, and they trust their instincts, and so we'll see how that works out for them.
I think it would have been fun if they said, "This is my nephew Leonard."
Yeah, wouldn't that have been great? Yeah, play on the I call him Bones. No, that'd have been too much.
Leonard Nimoy.
And then they could call him Lenny instead of Ish. That'd work. Yeah. So
Leonard Nimoy.
Yep. So they're gambling all their days away, and then eventually they do manage to foil a robbery attempt in the streets. The Vulcan nerve pinch is in effect, which he has no explanation for. How'd you do that? He's like, I don't know. It just seemed like the logical thing to do, is what I believe he said. And then later on, one of the other brothers gets jumped. After a date, he's trying to go out with a date with that girl, that doctor girl, but she never shows up, and now he's missing. And she comes looking for him. And I wrote that they were worried he had been shanghaied. But then instead, she's comes and look for him, and it says that this guy who's a street person in San Francisco who calls himself Emperor Nate, And I was like, where did we hear that before? There was a Star Trek novel, Rob, where they encountered somebody in the future who declared himself like the Emperor of the Galaxy. Do you remember that guy? It might have been one of the Bantam books.
Was that Trek to Mad World, maybe?
Yeah, maybe it was Trek to Mad World. That's right. And so I was like, is this the same guy? That it was not the same guy as that. But
thank goodness. I don't need any Trek to Mad World callbacks.
Yes. But meanwhile, they got, so now Jason's back, but they've still got to figure out how they're going to get all this money. Meanwhile, somebody wants to play chess for money, and Ishmael's like, hey, I'm your Huckleberry. And quickly wins $600 off of this guy, which is a lot of money, but it's not Bridal Veil Mountain money, unfortunately. Meanwhile, Jason's over there, leaves the process, plays some poker, has a hot run. He's almost there. He doubles down, puts all the money in the pot. He's all in, and he loses everything. Did he not get the message to stay with the process? What happened?
Yeah. No. And it's kind of weird because, it really amounts to nothing. This whole few chapters. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think of Spock, working a gambling system to sort of, I guess he's not cheating exactly, but
No, he's not cheating exactly.
Trying to, win a bunch of money gambling, and then it doesn't work out, and so, well, that didn't work. So just
a little adventure to have. That's right. It doesn't go anywhere. In fact, they end up right back in Seattle, and they still don't have enough money to buy the damn thing. But what else, though, is that Ishmael seems to be coming, and I used the word enamored, but I put a question mark after it, with this Biddy Coombe character, who's the one woman that they know is how Aaron's going to win the bet, because no one's going to marry old Biddy Coombe, right? Except Spock kind of appreciates her. She's kind of like, she's not like the other women. She's more cerebral. She learns how to play chess, and he's happy to teach her how to do that. But then they're like, Jason's like, well, why don't you marry her, and then I'll win the bet? And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that because she wants something and I can't provide that something. So it would be illogical for me to marry her.
I would buy this in season one Spock.
Yeah.
But from season 2 on, Spock's only with hot chicks. So, I think, of course, of Droxana or whatever her name was. Droxine?
Yeah, Droxine. Well, yeah, and in fairness, this could be right after City on the Edge of Forever, right? So it could be before the hot chick cavalcade starts rolling in for Spock.
Well, even at the start of season 2, though, his fiance was smoking hot.
Oh, yeah, you make a good point there. That's right, exactly. So
I don't think, as much, I think season 1 Spock would be like, yeah, I don't care what she looks like. She's nice or whatever, but he can cherry pick by season 2. He's got his pick of the litter.
That's right. I imagine that Biddy Coombe is played by the actress who's Kirk's love interest from The Deadly Years. It's like, really? Her? Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's just
what season was This Side of Paradise?
That was first season. Yeah.
Okay, so Spock even had cute ex-girlfriends then.
Sure. When did he have a non-cute ex-girlfriend or girlfriend? That's the thing. Spock's had the highest batting average in terms of quality. That's for sure.
Yes, Kirk's woke up with a couple of 4s where he was gnawing his arm off.
I'm sorry, Jim. Truly, I am. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We know we're.
Or who's the chick from Shorely? Ugh.
Yeah, Ruth. Ruth.
Yeah.
It's can't say Ruth without Ruth. All right, so let's see. Now Kirk and company are researching, and they think they're on a lead with this guy from the history books named Aaron Stempel, which is funny because we know that they're on the right lead, right? So that's cool. We're like, it's going to happen. They're going to get back there. We just have to find out when it happens. They meet up with that Klingon colonel. I wrote apostrophe, complaining about being bit by an animal in a box that he wasn't supposed to open. And I again, speaking of things that I don't know what they're doing here, why are they having an argument with this Klingon? I don't know, but we do learn that her has been put on the Guardian project, so that's cool because she was on the planet with them, so she should be there, and so was Scotty, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And then they figure out that Stempel was the guy who undid the plot when the Carsids invaded Earth in 1873. It was Stempel who found the mountain. Stempel was was what do you call it, a xenophobe. He was afraid of aliens and hated aliens. I was like, well, this doesn't sound like the Aaron Stemple we're learning about in this story, because he's learning to like this Spock guy. I'm sorry, this Ish guy. Yeah.
I kind of like this, so I'm enjoying the, 7 brides for 7 brothers thing or whatever they're doing here.
Yes.
And I'm enjoying the story, I'm enjoying this thing about the Carsids, but it was, because in Star Trek, we think of the Klingons as just these marauders that just, whenever they see an inferior in some way society, they kick its ass, subjugate it, or just wipe it out and take everything. And the idea that the Carsids are using economics to sort of, they live their way into control.
Yes.
It was fun. It was weird, but I mean, I kind of liked it. It was like, huh. So you're just going to kind of live among them, and so I don't know, get control of the bank or whatever the hell they were trying to.
Yeah, we would later know them as the Ferengi, I guess, but no, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it was kind of a fun idea, because that's not what if you think that, I don't know about you, my knee-jerk thought, if you tell me the premise is the Klingons go back in time to try and change history, I assume there's going to be some ass kicking.
Yes,
but that's not what the plan is at all.
The plan is, well, we'll just go back in time and buy Levi Strauss stock, and then we'll sell that for Maytag stock, and then we'll sell that for Firestone stock, and then we'll sell that for, eventually we'll work ourselves to Microsoft, and then to Amazon, and then to Tesla, and that's how we'll take control of the planet. It's a long game, basically, is what they're doing.
They're like, stick to the plan, and the guy's like, I'm putting all my money in New Coke.
That's basically what happens. I think the Carsids are too smart for that. They're not impulsive. So listen, chapter 16 brings us matchmaking on the frontier. I wrote down fiddles, banjos, petticoats, gas lamps. Jason is resigned that he's going to lose his bet. Marshmallows. Damn it, I didn't say marshmallows. I should have said marshmallows. Well done. So
they should have put a reference to that in the story. Come on.
Well, that I know.
It's not there yet.
That's the thing. We're 4 years away from that. That's why.
Yeah.
All right. So that's fair. So Jason has decided the only way he's going to keep them out is if he marries Biddy. So he proposes to her, and she refuses him. What's worse than marrying Biddy Coombe? Proposing to Biddy Coombe and having her turn you down. That's what's worse. So when that's when he knows he's going to lose this bet. And then at the 11th hour, it's midnight when this bet's up or whatever, at this promenade that they're having or whatever. And Aaron Stemple comes in and proposes to Biddy Coombe, meaning he's going to lose this bet. He could have just proposed to her at 12:01, but he doesn't want to make it look like he's, trying to do that. So he proposes to her. Because he's decided that she's the one for him. Or whatever. So basically, I think Ishmael had convinced him, maybe you should look to give her another look, because she's a woman of character, and she's a handsome ? Woman, I guess, kind of thing. Yeah. Pleased to make her acquaintance, Miss. Right. Yep. And then everything seems good, but then the Klingons show up for reals, and they take Aaron outside, and they zap him with a blaster rifle, a disruptor rifle. Pistol.
They clipped him. Yeah, they didn't blast him.
They didn't blast him, but they grievously wound him, and then
they winged him.
Yeah, and then since they seem to have completed their mission, and defeating Spock's mission to save him, Spock seems to start remembering, oh, that's right, I know what I'm here for, and I know who those assholes are, but they've gotten away, and he has nothing to do now but work himself to death to try and keep Aaron Stemple alive, but he has really no hope, right? Because the medical technology here has no chance of saving him, right? He needs stuff. They're giving him blood transfusions from all the Bolt brothers and Bolt cousins and Bolt friends that come over.
He didn't get nicked in the ear. He took it pretty bad.
Yeah.
And his organs are failing or whatever. God, if only we had, the medical team of the Enterprise and some
Yep.
Med scanners and tricorders, am I right?
What he's got is Dr. Sarah Gay, which is not going to help, although she's occasionally there to help and to talk philosophy and stuff like that. But he's like, if I fall asleep, Aaron's going to die, and then he falls asleep. And that's where chapter 17 ends. But guess what happens in chapter 18? Chapter 18, I remember you texting me and saying, you got to check out chapter 18. It's got a very bonkers opening. So he's, so they're in orbit around Earth in 1867, and he's looking down at the Earth. And he's imagining what his ancestors are doing. He's Kirk is. He's like, right now, my ancestors are probably in Arizona killing them of some Apaches. But it could be worse because Bones' ancestors are probably lynching blacks down south. And I was like, son of a bitch. Both of these are probably true, by the way.
Because they're probably lynching Uhura's ancestors.
And it's not even blacks, but Uhura's ancestors. That's right. Zounds. And of course, probably true in this case. Things weren't great in 1867. They do talk about how the Civil War had ended recently.
Wasn't Uhura from wherever?
Yeah, she's from Africa. So she was never. She was. I don't remember, Kenya or I can't remember which country it was, but So I think they might have mentioned it in one of the books.
Georgia though. Yeah. So.
Yeah, not in Georgia. That's right. So they start scanning, and darned if they don't find alien life signs. They're like, son of a bitch, Klingons. He's like, nope, it's Vulcan. So they're like, well, we probably better go down there. And they beam down to Aaron's cabin, and they find Spock sleeping there. They have a brief and happy reunion, and then Aaron gets a medical care that Spock couldn't give him. And we get, and he gets a glimpse of. I wrote down and underlined Spock's World. That's a catchy title. We should write. That should be the title of our book. Is Spock's World.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Glad nobody's taking that title. And then Spock does some matchmaking of his own too, which is fun. Or I'm not sure if I wrote down that word correctly. Some late matchmaking. Did I get that right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Rob. So then we get the summary of Spock's clues that he gave and what he was trying to tell them from, his little squirt, from the transport. We also lean into Aaron's historical, insistence about distrusting aliens, with the Carsids. And then Spock, had resisted. We learned that Spock had resisted the Mind Sifter, beamed himself down, and escaped. But that explains his appearance on the planet. He's all scarred up when he gets there. His memory's gone. Having survived the Mind Sifter, that's a good MacGuffin for, amnesia, basically. So that helps. And then we learned that the Klingons may have caused the events that they had been trying to prevent, and that's always fun. And then finally we get that little historical record note that he learns where Amanda is Amanda Stemple Grayson. So her ancestry is the match that he helped make between Aaron Stemple and Biddy Coombe, basically.
And I think they even found like a photograph that Spock was in or something, right? Of the town at that time.
That's right. How amazing is that? Because there were photographs in 1867. That's right. They it was that.
Yeah, and basically whatever had happened delayed the Carsids enough for a bigger emergency for them to appear, and they left Earth alone, and we were allowed to continue.
That's right.
So, a seemingly insignificant thing, but
significant after all. That's right.
Yeah. The butterfly flapped its wings, and whatever across the ocean.
All right. So that brings us to the end of Ishmael. March of 1985. So, do you have your rankings? Did you consider where this goes?
I did. I like this novel quite a lot, actually. And I'm like you. I was like, Old West, why?
Yeah.
But it was pretty early in that chapter. I was like, oh wait, I remember this.
Oh, there you go. See, I never did,
but I didn't. But I didn't remember this story, so it wasn't like at any point I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen. But I enjoyed this story. I enjoyed the Starbase stuff. I always will enjoy Guardian of Forever novels. We probably won't have one for a long time again. I mean,
yeah. What are the odds that we'll have another Guardian novel anytime soon? Pretty low, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think Spock's going back in the past anytime soon. But and seeing Spock trying to find his way and find himself in this completely foreign land, right? Different time, different everything.
Land. Yeah, exactly.
Was fun. And, it's a well-written story. It's if you'd have told me you're going to keep my interest with the Star Trek novel about Spock winning at cards and, who's going to take who to the dance and stuff, I'd be like, But it worked. I thought it was good. I liked it.
Yeah.
So I actually have it ranked out of however many we've done, 20?
17. This is 17.
I have it ranked third.
Ooh, interesting. I'm close.
Yeah.
I have it fifth. I was wondering whether it was going to crack that top four. My top four are all those damn Romulan stories. So I have My Enemy, My Ally at number 1, The Romulan Way at 2, the good one at number 2, Web of the Romulans at 3, and Killing Time, the Romulan time travel one at 4. And this being another time travel one, it was really, is this going to be above or below Killing Time? And I ended up putting it below. I think there's the story itself is a cool story from a character perspective, but I liked the idea of Killing Time kind of being like the whole idea of a time travel plot to change Earth history feels more like a Romulan thing. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, if nothing else, we know that the producers of Strange New Worlds agree with me on that, and so I'm running with it. But so it's right there. It's right. 4A and 4B are Killing Time and Ishmael, I think, which puts it right above Star Trek II, which is a great story and a great movie. But I just can't give this book all the credit that the movie gets. So I have that at 6. So
what happened in Killing Time again?
So in Killing Time, that's the one where the Romulans have this plot to go back and change something in the past, and it means that Kirk is now like a lowly ensign, and Spock's in command of the ship, and the Vulcans it's a Vulcan fleet, and that.
I think you'd like that one way better than I did.
Yeah, I did. That's correct. But anyway, but again, time travel stuff, right? Time travel hijinks is like a default to those are usually at the top of my list. So
yeah, I have it after The Romulan Way and My Enemy, My Ally, which, like you said, are both awesome. And then
we both have those at 1 and 2, so we just have them reversed.
So I slid this one in at 3. I don't know if I would lock it in there, but and then I have the Prometheus design. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
Then the ICA epidemic. I don't know. It's somewhere in there.
Yeah, I got Idic at 7 and Prometheus at 9 and stuff like that. So we're kind of around. I think our top halves are pretty similar and our bottom halves are pretty similar. That's not just a gender discussion. I think that's a Star Trek book list talk. So hey, let's pretend to roll some dice. Click, click, click. Yeah. Anyway, our next book, we've already rolled it. Our next book is,
and I've already read it.
Is a time travel story called Time for Yesterday. What number is that book? Do you remember the number?
I can look. It was like 33 or something.
I remember that the cover is painted by Boris Vallejo, is what I remember.
Well, what was fun about it, you haven't started it yet, I imagine.
I've got a long road trip coming up, so I'm going to do all my reading on.
So the fun thing about it is, it is a sequel to a book that was a sequel to All Our Yesterdays.
Yeah, that's the fun thing. So it's Yesterday's Sun was the sequel to All Our Yesterdays, and this is Time for Yesterday, which is a sequel to Yesterday's Sun. So that's very cool. Which is a little weird that we're reading them out of order, but it's okay. We're gonna work with it.
And it's good stuff. Spoilers. So yeah.
All right.
But I think it's 33.
All right. So join us here on our Novels of Star Trek podcast, our second series of Novels of Star Trek podcast, when we take up Time for Yesterday next time. So next time. Until that time, take us out the way you do all the time, Rob.
Time after time. Live long and podcast.